This is sort of investment tanking because this tank is not actually available for sale. It is a campaign reward for Clan Wars. It is the Objekt 907 tier 10 Russian medium and overall a decent contender with the other tier 10s. The eagle-eyed viewers amongst you might have noticed this isn't actually my account. It's my friend Wolfhawk's account, who was lucky enough to be in Reddit main when he was doing the campaign.
Target unlocked.
Not jealous at all. Nope, not at all.
Locate another target. Target acquired.
How does it hold up to the other tier 10 Russian mediums? Well, in terms of hit points, it tops all the others with 2,000 hit points. That's more than the T62A and the Objekt 140. They only have 1950 for the 62 and 1900 for the Objekt 140. It's also a speedy devil, being the same top speed as the Objekt 140 at 55 km an hour forwards and 20 backwards. Bear in mind the T62A only goes 50 km. That's not a noticeable difference, but it does feel a little bit off when you're trying to keep up with others in Clan Wars. The power to weight ratio is actually the best out of the three. It has 16.94 horsepower per tonne, whereas the Objekt 140 is the next highest with 16.11, and the T62A lags behind with 15.68. That's given to its 610 horsepower engine, much better than the 580. I know it doesn't sound much of a difference, but it counts to the other two tanks. All that extra horsepower is slightly offset by the terrain resistance, but is around 0.05 worse than the Objekt 140, at 0.6 on hard terrain, 0.7 on medium terrain, and 1.5 on soft terrain. The chance to catch from fire is actually at the lowest along with the T62A at 10%, although that doesn't account for getting hit in the fuel tanks. Now, as you can see here, I'm having to fight from the top of the hill, looking down on the enemies. I actually feel the gun depression felt better than the T62A, but it's actually identical. It's -5 degrees and +16. That's one less gun elevation than a T62A, but identical in terms of depression.
Enemy armor is damaged.
The 140, of course, has an extra degree at -6, which doesn't sound much when you say it's 1 degree difference, but bear in mind that's a plus whole 20% of gun depression gained over the other two mediums.
We didn't penetrate their armor.
The gun is identical to the other mediums. It is 264 penetration on APCR, 330 on heat, and only 50 on high explosive, with an average damage of 320 and 420 with high explosive. The only real difference is dispersion, where it has 0.36 at 100 meters, as opposed to the 0.34-ish of the T62A and the 0.35 of the Objekt 140. The 907 also edges out the other mediums just only though in terms of damage per minute, with 2,953 average, where the others only have 2,908. Of course, the Objekt 430 edges out them even a bit more, but let's just not talk about that abomination. As for the armour of the 907, that's where I really like it. It's a really strange shape, this tank. It may look flat on the sides, but it's actually diagonally angled underneath the spaced armour, just like the IS-7, so it's a lot thicker than it appears. It's 100mm at the front, 85 on the sides, and 45 at the rear. That's only on the hull, whereas the turret is 228 on the front, 180 at the sides, and 46 at the rear. This is angled very effectively, leading to bounce a lot of good shots. Crew layout is identical to all the other Russian tanks as well, so you can swap over your favourite crews into this tank, train them up, earn some credits as well. The average earning is just over 25,000 credits per game in this. If you're an average player, if you're exceptional, that will be a lot more.
Enemy armor is hit. Get going.
I'm not going to lie, driving this tank felt really, really weird. It's actually strange for a Russian tank to be front turreted. Most of them are mounted mid, so you have to try and sort of work your hull a bit harder. This was like driving... It's a bit like driving an FCM 50T. You're driving with your turret at the front, so you've got a lot more range for your gun. You didn't have to poke out so much of your armour, you can use your frontal hull to a lot more effect. So, is it a good tank? Yeah, it's the best of both worlds between a T62A and an Objekt 140. It's not noticeably better than both, it's just gets rid of all the weaknesses of either of them and slaps it into a nice solid tank. And is it worth having? Hell yeah, if you can manage to grind one through in the next Clan Wars campaign, maybe the 4th campaign if they let you, try it. But you've got to choose between all the other different reward tanks if they do that again. Other than that, spend more gold and keep tanking.